Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We're going to get started because I believe, according to my watch, it's 6 o'clock.
Okay, yes, very good.
My name's Ray DeYulo. I work for the Postal Service's Corporate Communications Department. I'm actually down, my domicile is down in southern New Jersey, so I had about a 2-hour ride here. I cover South and Central New Jersey, I cover the state of Delaware, and I cover half of Pennsylvania. So I have a pretty good sized territory. The reason we're here tonight is we're actually involved in a process where the servicing district for this postal office, Seabright, is basically taking under consideration whether or not to discontinue the Seabright postal branch. Now, everybody says, well, why is the Postal Service doing that? Let me explain a little bit of what happened. Obviously, about 10 months ago, we had a bad storm. Storm came in and devastated the building that the postal branch was in. As a result of that, the lease was terminated accordingly with the landlord. So that puts the district on the clock to do a couple of things. They are now required, as a result of that emergency, to conduct a study to A, possibly discontinue this postal setup and consolidate it into Rumson, B, replace it, or C, another option. So this is where we are. The district right now is proposing that they would prefer to discontinue the branch, which was only a part-time operation, and continue to provide the services from the mother post office, which in this case would be Rumson. Now, has a final decision been made? No. This is part of the process. The district is required to solicit input from the people who used the facility that's proposed. So part of that includes surveys. Did everybody here get a survey? Okay. The other part of that is this meeting that we have right now, because you may have questions about, okay, what happens if? Can I do this if this happens? And we have the manager here, Renelle Myhock. She is actually the boss of the Rumson Post Office. So Renelle is a post office operations manager who has oversight of how many postmasters, Renelle?
80, approximately 80. They're all of the 087 and 077 offices.
So she should be able to answer any questions you have about operations, about mail delivery, about P.O. boxes. How many people here have a P.O. box? Okay, so right now you're currently getting your mail. You've kept your same P.O. box number, right? And you're picking it up in Rumson, correct?
I haven't been there in months.
Okay, you haven't been there a
Very
month.
inconvenient for me
Okay.
to go to Rumson.
Okay, so that's information that we need to know. Why is it inconvenient? Did you answer your survey with that information?
Did you send your?
Did you send your survey
I
in?
didn't send it in.
You didn't send it
No,
in?
no.
Can we give that customer a survey, John?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is it,
Oh, you know
can
what?
she provide information for the public record?
I'm not sure if I have extra ones.
You know what, can we, when the meeting concludes, can you give us your name and address?
Sure,
Okay,
yes.
so let me ask you a question. Why is it inconvenient?
Well, the driving.
It's about, what, 2.8 miles from Seabright to Rumson? A little under 3 miles?
Well, I understand that. But
Okay.
it's inconvenient.
Okay, it was great having a place nearby, right?
That's
Yes.
it. I
Yeah.
love my
I
post
know.
office.
Yeah, everybody does. And everybody, even though that's not a
Like to know that
standalone
it's
post
there, you
office,
know?
yeah, it's a branch. Everybody looks at it, it's an institution in the
Yeah.
town. But the Postal Service, as you know, we're not the financially stable organization we
I know.
once were.
I
Now,
know.
a lot of that has to do with these things. People don't communicate like they used to, okay?
Hmm.
My children are 36, 23, 21, and 17. And I can tell you, none of them use the mail. Okay? I do. I still write letters,
Me
and I
too.
still send cards. They don't. Everything, they have a phone, and they don't talk to it. They text with it.
Yeah, I know.
So this is what's happening to the Postal Service. So, like a lot of other businesses, we're being forced to evolve and change and adapt. Now, we're actually being fairly successful on some fronts. However, we've lost a significant amount of business since 2006, probably close to about 30% of our mail volume. So what happens is we now have more buildings, more processing facilities, more equipment than we need for the workload we have. We have a workload here but we have infrastructure up here. So, like any other business, we're trying to right-size, if you will, our organization. Now, if Superstorm Sandy didn't happen, we wouldn't be standing here having this conversation at this time, because that was the trigger that said to the district, you must consider all of these options, including a discontinuance. So they didn't single you out. Superstorm Sandy did this to a lot of places. Now, that doesn't mean, had Superstorm Sandy not happened, that down the road, that the district would have been, they're involved in looking at every aspect of the organization. So down the road, they may have said, you know what? It would be fiscally responsible for us
God bless
to take the operations from Seabright and put it into Rumson. So what did we gain? Well, between the rent and the utilities, we were paying about $45,000 a year. That's a pretty decent amount of money. When you look across the United States and you see 45,000, we lease probably as many buildings as we own. So we have to look at that. It's a significant cost expenditure. So we look at that, we take that into consideration. But at the same time, we try to balance that with why is it inconvenient? What other things are that you put down? What kind of feedback do you give us? Because to tell you the truth, we don't know all the answers until we come up here and talk to the customer.
As you get older, everything is harder.
Yes, I can tell you, I agree with you.
I'll be 84 in November.
God bless you.
I'm not as
Yes.
strong as I used to be. I don't like to drive as much as I used to, and feels like you lose the post office and the bank and the drugstore and the library. We have nothing.
Yes.
You
And
know?
technology is basically
What is
changing the
this?
way we
It's
live our
right.
lives, isn't it? Do you live in town?
No,
Excuse me.
that's
I
not why
do.
we lost. We lost those things because of the storm.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
But
What I mean-
she's speaking to what we lost in the storm,
Yes.
and that the library is part of our community.
Now, you have a
It has-
beautiful
We're
town.
not
It's
talking
the
about
first time I've been
technology.
here. Do you live in town?
Yes.
You actually can get your mail delivered to your home. Did you know that?
Yeah, this is for the Seabright Fire Ladies Auxiliary.
Oh, okay.
I'm the
Okay, so you'd
treasurer.
rather
We
get
have
that
a
delivered
box
to a
there.
PO box? Okay, I understand. Yeah, okay.
But the other part is, there seems, and I may be wrong, but I'm getting the feeling that you think everyone is equally capable of getting the 3 miles, 2.8 is pretty close to 3 miles over. What about the people who don't have their own vehicles? And I know people in town who don't have their own vehicle. Do you know do you know that that means, and I'm not saying walking's not good for people, but would you want to have to walk in bad weather if you need to transact?
No,
Okay.
No, I
And there
understand what you're
are people,
saying.
there are people, there is no direct bus service. There is, what are you gonna do? Pay a taxi because you wanna go over and pick up your mail at your PO box?
And for new also
Come on.
have a.
I mean,
have a
there-
car,
it,
and it's
we
like,
have
you
to,
know.
we have to
And she
cover
doesn't
all the
drive.
people who are in here. Do I have a car? Yes, I'm fortunate, I do. But the thing that was easier for me is in the summer, if you've lived in a short town, you know, it's not always the easiest thing to get from point A to point B by vehicle, unless you're doing it on a 2-wheel bike or your legs.
About parking?
Well, if he loses a parking place and comes back, it's gone.
It's gone. I know, I was in Wildwood last week and I realized as soon as you move your car, come back,
So
it's not there.
I could walk from my home down the approximately 2 miles to get to this post office, but I'm not gonna add another 3 miles. And to get from my house to the bridge to go to Rumson, could make me have a 25-minute wait. Trust me, it happened to me yesterday. I was late to a meeting. Several ladies here can attest to that fact.
Do you have a PO box also?
No, I have home delivery.
So you do get your mail delivered to your home? Okay.
Well, there were some issues, and there still are a few, but yes, basically my mail is coming to my home.
Okay.
And what is?
What are your issues with your mail delivery? I'm sure one else.
When we were told that they were gonna hold our mail in Rumson, and we needed to arrange for a forwarding address, I arranged for a forwarding address, well, in a good month to 6 weeks prior to my return to Seabright. Some of my mail never got to me. Some of my mail ended up in Florida, in the home of the woman from whom I was renting. Some of my mail was returned to sender, and when I questioned it, because I finally did get a hold of it here in Borough Hall, I was told it couldn't be forwarded to me, it was address specific. I found that rather difficult, to understand, since every piece of mail I had was address specific with a little label put on it. So I ended up having to pay extra on credit card accounts. I had utility bills that I never received. I'm not talking negligible things. So if you want to know what my issues were, those were my issues. Some of them have carried forward. Every once in a while, I get bills, and I know they're sent out at the same time every month, and I have to call and find out what they are so I can send it back and be done in a timely fashion and avoid the penalties for late.
Okay, I mean, first of all, I want to apologize because that's
your problem.
unacceptable service. Well, it is. It is, and I can address that with the postmaster and the.
I have.
Okay,
I think the thing that happened,
I'm
We-
not talking mail that was right after the storm. I understand that.
Right.
I'm talking
6 months
February,
later.
Yes.
March, April, May, and June.
we had a 100-year storm, if you will, that impacted several communities. So what happened was, we actually had a spike in temporary forwarding,
absolutely.
permanent mail forwarding. We still have people that are not back in their
Oh,
homes.
I understand
Yeah.
that. Most-
And
Several of my neighbors.
I'm not making an excuse because the type of service that you received is unacceptable. But what happened to us is we got overwhelmed by the number of buildings that
I
we
know.
had to close,
I got it.
by the number of temporary forwards that we had. We had a system that was comfort, if you will, with a certain volume of change of addresses that we process every year. And we process a tremendous number. However, when you look at the storm and the number of states that it impacted, and we're all operating off the same system, that's probably contributed to why you had the experience that you had, but that's not an excuse. We need to learn from that and do a better job, because that could cost you a financial issue, a credit issue. Now, generally what we would do is we would give you a letter for your creditor, basically saying that what happened to this customer is not this customer's fault. Frankly, it was something within our operation, and most creditors will waive any
Yeah.
kind of penalty or issue because they're getting a letter from us that says, wait a minute, this person should not be treated this way. So we could have helped you with that. I don't know if that was something that we could do for you in the future, but like
Let's
Renell
hope the
said.
situation does not repeat itself.
Yeah, let's hope not.
But I finally just went out and got a mailbox. It was easier for me to travel to my own home than be hassled with the issues that came from trying to forward.
Okay, I am so.
And we're actually still learning from everything that happened 10 months ago.
I'm sure we all are.
And we're still trying to get back in some buildings, yes.
Another problem that's kind of unique to the area is the bridge going into Rumson. It
Okay.
opens like every half hour in the summertime and on call during the winter. So that if you were to walk or drive, you might have to sit and wait. You can actually turn your engine off because it takes so long sometimes for the sailboats to go under the
And that's
bridge.
the only way to get into
That's the only way to
right?
get into Rumson.
Okay.
Now, if you go down to Monmouth Beach or Long Branch, that's an option. If you go north to, Locust or
Navesink.
Navesink,
Okay.
that's another town, but that's a lot more than 3
So
miles.
Monmouth Beach
And
might
so-
be a little closer, I would think, than Rumson.
Depends on where you are in
It
the
depends
I
town.
on
guess,
where you
yeah,
are,
okay, I
whether
think I
you're-
came through that
The
town.
town is only 1 block wide and so
Okay.
many miles long. But you've got 5 or 6 people here from the senior citizens group, and what we're finding out is there are people in their 70s and 80s who can't go out in the middle of a snowstorm or in the middle of a northeaster or something
Right.
like that, especially if you've got balance issues or stress issues, if you don't get your mail for a week, that could be very disturbing.
Yes, absolutely, I
It
understand.
increases the stress, and going over the
Okay.
bridge, and in the summertime, forget about it. I mean,
Okay, so we're actually recording all this feedback of the issues that you're bringing up. The bridge, right, John?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the mail forwarding issue,
Mail
the
forwarding.
distance, some people may be more than 3 miles. If you're at the other end of the town,
Yes.
you may be
Yeah.
closer to
If
5
you-
miles
yeah.
to
Yeah,
Rumson,
that's
correct?
right.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Now,
what's the length of North Beach approximately?
3 miles.
2.5?
2.5.
here, let me give you a piece of information though, with new construction. Okay, this doesn't concern you, but you know what our new parameters are for a new post office? Guess what they would be? 1 every 10 miles.
Yeah, but it's
Okay,
not
but
just
I-
North Beach, that's the center of town, and South Beach, it's
Mhm.
still
I don't want to
separate.
be rude, but.
No, I know, but I'm
We've
just
had
saying.
one issue here. I lived in a borough, and if you have all of Central Jersey, and you cover most of Central Jersey, I bet 08850 Milltown, New Jersey means something to you. And I lived there for many years, and there was more than one time you were able to find a way to redo the post office. As a matter of fact, I think it's undergoing a revival as we speak.
What town?
Milltown 088, is that what you said?
00850.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's-
I don't.
Yeah, she
I
doesn't
don't.
have that. That actually, there used to be 3 districts in New
Yeah, it's
Jersey.
actually
We
been
had
better.
North, Central, and South.
This is central.
About
Right by
6
the
years
Northwest.
ago, Central Jersey was, as part of the Postal Service right-sizing, was closed. The district was separated. 2/3 of that territory came to South Jersey, but the 088 and above, that went to North Jersey. So now Jersey is 2 districts.
Yes.
So again, this is all
And that is
part
in the
of,
northern
you know,
district.
the post office that delivers my mail has been consolidated into a couple towns over. Again, this is all part of the post office trying to right-size the infrastructure, take advantage of economies of scale. We have to. To sustain the status quo is a formula for disaster. We're not going to be here if we continue to go in this direction. Now, we're doing things that we can do. At the same time, we've enjoined Congress to do some things that they have to do that we can't do on our own. So we're working the legislative angle, and we're taking operational action on things that we can do. Now, sometimes that may result in some changes that could be perceived as a minor inconvenience from customers. But at the same time, what we're trying to do is we're trying to mitigate or basically decrease that when we can figure out how do we take costs out of the business, how do we stay in business, how do we continue to deliver mail to our customers, and at the same time provide them with as much convenience as we can. So it's a delicate balance. But no final decision has been made, okay? Now, here's what has to happen. Let's say several weeks from now, the district says, we want to do this. Is that the final decision? No. They have to put everything together, and they have to send it down to headquarters, right, John?
Correct.
And then there is a team at headquarters that reviews everything that was done, everything that was considered, and says yes or no. So the final determination does not always rest with the district. It still has to be consented or denied at headquarters. So right now, we're in the middle of those steps. So technically, no final decision has been made. Yes, ma'am.
A couple more factors, because I really do read
Okay.
a lot of material on this, and my daughter's a sustainable architect doing long-term planning for the future. If you read about baby boomers, and that's people born 1946 to 1964,
I'm one of them.
they're trying to downsize. I'm a little bit too old for that. But they're trying to downsize and yet stay within a walkable distance of a community, and that's what we have in Seabright. Whereas if you plan on going to the post office, you can go to the bank, go to the library, go to a senior citizens meeting, maybe get lunch or coffee or an early bird special locally. You can't do that in Rumson. I mean, you just can't do it. And Rumson is more of a car community than a bicycling or a
Okay.
walking community. So that's sort of putting it backwards, because then you not only have the senior citizens who can't always drive in bad weather or when they're not feeling well and they need to get medication or whatever. You have the baby boomers who want to be in a walkable community. And then you have people who believe in sustainability and environmental issues, trying to use less carbon,
Yes.
whether they're driving an electric car or walking or bicycling. And there are a lot of people who do bicycle and walk, and that was the preference. That's
Okay.
what I loved about Seabright for 15 years, was being able to walk to everything.
So now you brought up a very good topic, because we have a concept that we're now putting out that's very new. And as you know, a year ago in September, the Postal Service announced that it was going to reduce hours at about 13,000 post offices across the country. So why were we doing that? It's because a lot of those offices were open 8 hours a day, and we were only doing about 1 hour's worth of business. Obviously, that doesn't make a lot of sense from an economic standpoint. So people say, well, don't close these places. Can you just change the hours? And we said, yes, we can do that. So we're in the process of doing that. However, on an aside, we've actually extended or expanded, if you will, our relationships with outside people to provide postal services. So we have consignment situations, we have contract postal units, and now we have the village post office. And my friend John here believes that, and I drove up to your town, You can actually run a village post office in a hardware store. Okay? And basically what it does is, if you have a post office that's a few miles away, you could provide supplemental services out of the village post office in that town if the decision is made to take your satellite station away. So again, we have brochures and information on how that happens, and we work with business owners, and we actually pay them to set this up. And then the letter carrier can come and deliver the mail inside the boxes there. Yes?
Yes, a number of us have spoke about this before, including my friend Fran over here.
Yes.
That was one of our original ideas. We said we've seen it in rural communities,
Yes.
everything else. They have these little satellites. What is the square footage that's required?
John, is it on that brochure back there?
Not really, well,
For our particular town, because we are fairly small.
what happens is businesses want to partner with us, you know, they want to quote unquote brand with us. They would get an actual post office sign, it would say Village Post Office, Seabright, New Jersey, to help maintain the town identity. And what they do is they sell stamps, and you can mail flat rate parcels, and they're picked up daily when the carrier comes to deliver the mail that day. So a lot of what you would do at Seabright, you could do right there and walk to it. You know, I think it's a perfect match for Seabright.
USPS.com.
Also, an option is if the place can fit, if there's space inside the facility, the P.O. boxes that you're traveling to get to in Rumson, you can get right there at the village post office. Now, a business has to want to partner with us. So we're encouraging any businesses in town to call us, or also there's a section on the back of this, and the other handout that can be filled out. There's people very knowledgeable and be more than willing to help you out in that regard.
Right.
Are these the
And-
postal
and-
employees or would they?
No, these are employees, like, I'm sorry, of like the hardware store owner or pharmacy
Right.
owner.
He's gonna
We had a
sort the mail
bookstore owner
and put them in the
do it.
boxes?
No, for example, the carrier in Rumson, to say if a hardware store or pharmacy opted to do that, on their line of travel, when they got to the hardware store or whatever, they would sort the mail into the P.O. boxes, the postal employee is sorting it. And pretty much the business owner, you know, we're paying them to rent that box for the P.O. box space. You have the same professional service of a carrier. The store owner is selling stamps and providing flat rate boxes and flat rate stamps, so, and there'll be a chart, okay, if it's, you know, this box would be 3 stamps, or whatever the case may be. It's a perfect fit, I believe, for Seabright, where you can walk to it, but if you need full services, you have Monmouth Beach and of course Rumson. If you need to do a registered or
Bulk mail.
express
and
mail, whatever the
things like
case
that,
may
yeah.
be.
Will the store owner be paid for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he'll get paid, it's really a
An
win-win.
expense to the post office as well as the person that was there,
Yes.
full-time, part-time.
However, it is an expense, but when you look at it, we're not spending as much money as we would if we ran our own building, because now we have, all of that's our overhead.
I'm talking about manpower, not the building per se.
No, we negotiate a contract with the person. If we say, yes, we're gonna go into business with you, we negotiate a contract with them, and then we pay them a fee to run the office, to provide those services.
How about putting a person there that's a postal person in that store?
No, that's not part of that concept.
In the village post office, I know, I understood you to say if you have bulk mail, you have to go over. If you had to send a registered letter, if you needed to get something for which you needed a confirmation, postmarking, all that would you would still have to go out of the town in
Right.
order to do
If
it?
you need specific services like that, then you would have to go to actual full-service post office as, like Monmouth Beach or Rumson.
Right, so what would be included? I just want to sort of get a clear picture.
Purchase of stamps.
Yes.
And mailing of flat rate priority boxes, which is very popular these days.
P.O. Box service.
Which is, do
And
you know
P.O.
what
box
flat
service.
rate is?
Essentially,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
you said if there was space, if the person, that wasn't a guarantee
No.
from the P.O. box service. So you'd be able to get stamps and do priority mail.
Flat rate.
Right, priority,
Flat
flat rate,
rate.
flat rate priority.
And if a small business like an insurance company or a law office had to do certified mail return receipt requested, that would be.
They wouldn't be able to help
They'd
them.
either have a postage meter or they'd have to go.
Right, yeah, for anything, you know,
Or-
more, not complicated, more,
Or they could go online and print their own labels.
I was gonna say, you can do it
You can actually do it at the post
yourself,
office that never
actually,
closes,
something like that.
USPS.com.
Everyone has the ability to do that.
Yeah.
There are
Right.
people in this room, I
Or
know
if you're a
perfectly
law
well,
firm, you should.
have no internet, have
Right.
no printer, and if you don't have
And
that,
no
if you
cell
don't
phone.
have the computer, then that is not a
But if you're a
viable
law firm,
option.
you will, because my wife is a paralegal, and that's what they do. You
All
can
right.
actually do that,
We're
and then your letter
talking
carrier
residents.
picks it up and you don't have to go to the post office.
Just to buy stamps.
Will there be a Seabright?
And mail your letters.
Yes.
We don't need
cancellation
it.
on the
Because
stamp?
you
No.
can buy, well, I go to the post office for that, I don't.
No, your cancellation is actually Rumson. You have second line of address though. You can use Seabright, right, with your zip code?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, see,
That
that's
doesn't
the
change.
last line.
Yeah.
But how about a letter being sent from here?
Well, it would get canceled at your processing facility, which is what, Trenton?
Now Trenton.
So that would be postmarked in Trenton. All the mail that we collect in this area is going to Trenton to get postmarked. If it's stamped mail. If it's metered mail, it doesn't get stamped, postmarked. So it depends on what kind of mail.
So there is no postmark now.
Well, yeah, you could walk into the Rumson post office and you could say to that gentleman, I was just at the beach and I want to send this postcard to my brother. Can you please hand stamp this
Yes.
with the Rumson cancellation? And he can do that.
About Seabright.
Did Seabright have one?
No,
No.
See, right, it's not
we haven't
operational.
had it for years.
You haven't had it for years?
Years
Okay.
and years, Jack can tell you. I mean, yeah, we've been 07760.
Yeah,
we've been
matter of fact, I
Rumson.
researched it. You had a zip code way back in the day
077.
for like 2 years, not even. And then in 1965, they did away with about 700 zip codes. Yours was one of them.
Right.
I have the research if you want it, so.
Yeah.
I went to the postal historian about that. Yes, you were, 07761.
Right.
But you weren't alone that time either. There were about 700 offices. And there's a long explanation in the postal bulletin as to why they did that. So, yes.
How much square footage is necessary in a hardware store or a convenience store?
It's depending on if they want to, provide PO box
boxes.
service. In other words, if you envision like a red box machine that size,
Yeah.
Rumson, Seabright, I'm sorry, would need 2 of those. Not really that much space, but based on that, we would give them, X amount per month, provide that service. It's a win-win. It's something that would help you guys out. Like you like to walk to the post office, do this, go to the bank, do that. Does it provide full services? No, but if you want to, buy some stamps, mail a package out, it would help you out in that regard.
And what do you expect the annual cost to be? If it's not going to be $45,000 a year, is it going to?
Those are negotiated. I really don't know the particulars. There's a department in Colorado, the post office that handles that. It's all different. There's no cookie cutter answer to that question. It's all depending on the area and what the previous office revenue was taking in.
So there's no range of how many square feet is common or what the cost would be?
Yeah, no, we just started this. We actually opened nationwide 300th one this week.
300 village post.
300 village post offices, and they're growing fairly rapidly each week. I get a report from headquarters on it. In fact, we were hoping that the eastern area would have the 300th village post office because we kind of celebrate it, but another area beat us to it.
Do you have any in New Jersey?
Yeah,
Not yet.
not
We're
down
hoping
here,
for
but
Seabright.
I think George does. I think North Jersey does. I'll have to check, yes.
Do you know the number of post offices boxes rather, that are now in use in Rumson?
You mean
That
Seabright?
From Seabright.
There were 75, was
There's
it?
63 right now.
63 out of
A great
75.
number of the
Yeah.
boxes in there, in the Seabright post office, were not in use.
Correct.
But it would be, if you're going to do a village post office, bringing the boxes over here would make a tremendous amount of sense. If you're going, especially
think
for
so, too.
a lot of the businesses, I'm surprised there's not more business owners here. For the businesses in town who do use them, obviously they're taking somebody out of work to go running over the bridge. I have one, and it's, in this time of year, it's intolerable to go get my mail because as she explained,
Trust.
and we need those back along with as many basic services as you can put in
You're
there.
absolutely
I'm
right.
sorry, depends if there's a business that would agree to, rent the space out to us to do that, we'd be more than willing to do so. If we found a business that would work with us in that
That
regard.
brings me to another question. How come you waited 10 months to have this meeting?
This is a step-by-step process. It has to be followed under certain parameters. So this is part of those steps. So the first thing we do is we get told that we can't get back in the building because of whatever, a fire, a storm. So then we say, okay, where can we provide postal services in an emergency? So that's the first thing we do. So we look at what's the mother post office, Rumson. So each post office has an emergency plan for those conditions. So once that starts, now, then they start to figure out, once you try to get through all of that emergency stuff, Now what are you gonna do? Okay, one of the things we wanna do is, we can't get back in the building because the building's condemned. So now we're gonna look at all three options. So it's not something that happens in a few weeks. It's just, you can't do it that way because you have to account for so many different things and you have to allow people to have input. If we did it in a very small window of time, we may be depriving ourselves of collecting as much information as we can.
If you had come back and attempted to open a post office in a shorter amount of time, you would have had a number of storefronts to rent from and you could have gotten some very small spaces. Unfortunately, now those are disappearing.
Well,
And by
yes.
waiting this long now, there's not a lot of options
But
for you to
again,
bring it into
It
town.
wasn't something that we wanted to do. We were forced into it because you weren't the only place that we were running this kind of drill on. We had like 20-something facilities that we were in a state of, wow, what are we gonna do? Plus processing facilities. So the storm impacted us tremendously. So it basically made us spread out our resources and slow us down. But even said, let's just say, God forbid, overnight one of our post offices burns down. We're gonna go through the same process that we're going through. And to tell you the truth, we're not gonna have a public meeting in 2 weeks or 2 months because we have to collect information. So it would be somewhere like 10 months later before you got to that point because you have to collect all this information. You have to do all this analysis. You can't make a decision that quickly. That's that important. So I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, it's a process that we have to follow.
Then that brings me to one other question. Why did you continue to use, that space that you used was probably at least 3 times larger than is needed for a town this size. Why did you continue to sit there and pay $45,000? You could have downsized it a long time ago.
I don't know, I don't make those decisions, but I will tell you that as we move, I don't know if you're familiar, but we're currently collaborating delivery carriers from nearby facilities into each other, into one large place. And what we're looking at doing is exactly that. We now have a retail operation remaining where we're only using 1,500 square foot and we have a 20,000 square foot building. We either own it or we lease it. So what we're looking at is when the lease is due, we try to relocate that 1,500 operation in an appropriately sized location or sell the asset. So you're right, and that's things that we're doing, that we're now doing even with more expedience because of the situation that we're in. But yeah, it does make sense. But sometimes you have a relationship with a lessor. Sometimes there's not much other things available. People say they want to rent to you. We're considered a good customer, but sometimes when we think, oh, we're not going to have any problems getting a postal location, and we go out and we can't find something. And it takes like 2 years. So again, you get that comfort zone. Had that storm not happened, we'd still be there.
Okay, if there is a business owner in town that would be willing, if a business owner in this town wants to talk to you about doing a village post office, who do they have to talk to? Who do they go see?
Dennis?
Dennis
Palandra.
or the district,
Yeah.
or just fill out the postcard right here. There's professionals in state of Colorado.
They'll reach
That's
out.
what they do.
And then they'll contact Dennis.
If the information's in the.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We have a guy at
It's all
the
right here.
district. Either you can contact him directly or Colorado will contact him directly and say, hey, we have a possible person in Seabright. We need you to work with these people, and then we set it up.
All right, I have another question concerning this space that was needed. I believe the statement was made, and I may be incorrect, that the actual space you need to provide flat box service, and the stamp service would be about the size of 2 red boxes. What additional service would be required to provide, what was the statement, 63? Let's say 60. Let's make it a round number. 60 PO boxes. How much more space would that?
Oh no.
provide?
Let me clarify that. The 63 PO boxes, that would be the 2 red box sizes. They would also need size for probably about the same size kiosk, if you will, that has all the flat rate boxes that the customers could use. But like I said, they work with them with all official postal signs, and that's what they do. I mean, if there is a business willing to work with us, we'd be more than willing to work with them.
And those boxes, unless I'm mistaken, they're about, say, 6 feet high by about maybe 4 feet wide?
They come in different
You're
configurations.
talking about 9 to 10 feet in width? You're talking about maybe 50 square feet that you would need?
Maybe about 7 feet wide by like 2 feet deep. I mean, they're not really that. It's like a soda machine.
Well, just
Well,
so
no,
that
but
you
you,
get an idea
if somebody's
of how
gonna
much-
work there,
yeah.
somebody needs space to move if they're working within this kiosk.
Right, and what they are, they're called rotary cabinets where the carrier would be at the front of the box, have a special key, open it up, turn it around, service the box, and then close it up, so that minimizes the space that's
If
needed.
you look here, here's one picture that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in it, in a hardware store. It's showing that brochure here. Yeah, and basically what you need is the customer accesses the front, the employee accesses the back. Does anybody here live in an apartment complex where you get your mail delivered to a cluster box? No? Okay, so if you look at, you get it right to the door, okay. Okay, if you look on this page here, see this unit right here? These are called cluster boxes. People that live in apartment complexes will generally get their mail at strategic locations throughout a large complex. It's the same concept. You get a key on the one side, we get a key on the other side. And we open it up, we put the mail in the right boxes, we close it, and then you open it up and take your mail out.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind of
great.
similar to that. So, only it's slightly larger, yes.
A question about if a hardware store or convenience store decides to go ahead with this, who pays for liability insurance for slip and falls, and who takes care of fire insurance and things
Well, the
like that?
Postal Service is self-insured, so when people come, unfortunately, and trip at one of our sites that we own, then it's on us. Well, how that relates to a business owner and when we're leasing, I have no idea. That would be discussed, I guess, in the terms of the agreement. So, like if we're driving one of our vehicles and we run into your car, that's on us. Yes,
With the village post office, are there minimum hours of operation?
it's whatever the store hours are, right?
Right, and we need to have, store has to have the same, they have to be available 6 days a week, you know, at reasonable hours, have at least the same as the previous location. So if a place is closed, you know, 3 days a week, obviously they would not be a viable option for a village post office. And most of the time, they're open a lot longer than post office are. Seabright was only open 3 hours a day. Most convenience stores, it might be 24 hours or at least 8 or 10 hours. So that would be a benefit for a village post office.
You haven't mentioned anything about population increases and otherwise. I know after the storm, it's been depleted. However, in my memory, Seabright had 500 year-round residents. I'm old. All these pictures, I could name some of the people that lived there. It's exploded with the condos that they have now, and you're servicing a lot more people. Maybe you're not selling a lot more services through the post office, but you're still servicing all these people. Has that been taken into consideration?
Well, you bring up a point that is basically validates what we've been trying to say. So, as population continues to grow, as towns and houses continue to be built, we are mandated to provide postal service to those new houses, correct? Correct. So what happens is, every year we add about 750,000 deliveries to what we delivered from the year before. We're now delivering about 152 million deliveries 6 days a week. A year ago, that was about 151 million. So what happens is, we're delivering less mail, right? But we're delivering to more stops. So our cost per delivery is going up, right? And our revenue per delivery is going down. But yes, we do try to take that into consideration.
Have they ever started to think about charging more for this junk mail?
We don't call it that. Believe it or not, bulk business mail generates a lot of business. So for example, people get a catalog. You may not like the catalog, however your neighbor may like the catalog. My wife loves them. What does my wife do? She opens the catalog, goes on a computer, and orders. That's where we win, because we're one of the shippers of choice. So you may call it that, but we see it as a revenue opportunity. And it gets to the point where some bulk business mail generates about 20 other possible pieces of mail for us. So it is very valuable to us.
about those flyers with the grocery store coupons, the ones that come on newsprint that?
Advos?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that generate business for
Yes.
you? Is that why we must put up with it?
Actually, you would be very surprised at the complaints we get if a customer does
Misses
not
it.
receive
Absolutely.
their
I didn't get my weekly
local
ad for the
circulars,
Acme
yeah.
that you guys deliver.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's important for some people, and for, it's all a matter of preference. The thing I love about mail is I have a choice. It's not like somebody calling me up on the phone in the middle of dinner. I can read, react, and recycle, right? On my terms. I can open it up when I want to. If I like it, I can keep it. If it's got something in there that I want to buy, I can buy it, and if not, I can what? Recycle it. So, to me, I like it. Whereas when I'm sitting down at dinner, and even though I'm on the do not call list, they still call me. My wife says, how is that possible? I said, well, I'll tell you how that's possible. It's called random digit dialing. See, I went to school for all this. And they just take randomly dialing numbers in a certain area code, and bang, that's how they get you. So a lot of those do not calls don't always work. But mail is great. Hey, I don't want this. Put it in the recycle. That I want. So again, it's a matter of preference.
Well, for a while, Rumson had just discardable bins like that on
Uh-huh.
the floor, and they filled up real fast with people just, the
bless
P.O. box people
Yeah.
not wanting to keep them, so it jams up my box. I can't get half my mail out because those
Do we
things.
still provide the receptacles?
Well, they disappeared again. I don't know what that's about.
I can take care of that.
So I bring it home to recycle it myself, but if you would provide one there, it would make it.
Absolutely.
We have many,
Right-
many
right by the
initiatives
P.O.
to
boxes.
recycle that
Okay.
mail.
Thanks.
We do that. We have a lot of relationships with various recycle agencies where we recycle that mail that you take out of your box and don't want and then discard it. We can't do that
I used to do that.
because the person that paid for that postage, we have a responsibility to them to at least give you the opportunity to say, I don't want this. Yes, sir.
And they should be the blue recyclable bins, because
Okay.
I noticed that for a while they were these white, I'm pointing
Well,
at
you
this
know why?
thing,
Because we're
that-
gonna take it in the back and recycle it.
Yeah.
We have our own.
When
means
people
of
didn't
recycling.
understand what the white
Okay.
one was, they thought it was outgoing mail, so they weren't putting stuff in
Okay.
there.
Oh, okay.
We can label it.
So, it needs to be labeled. Thank
This
you.
gentleman's had his hand up a couple times.
Just two questions. With the village post office, is there a minimum term lease? Is it 3 years, 5 years?
It's a month-to-month.
Oh,
It's a month-to-month contract, if you will.
and the second question, if, at a minimum, could we have a mailboxes set up in Seabright, maybe 2 different locations? Right now, there's no.
Yeah, there is. We did put one up for you.
Okay. I didn't know.
I'll tell you where it is.
Right in front of Mr. Bain.
There it is.
1092 Ocean.
Congressman, is it Cologne?
Yes.
Yes.
It's at Bain.
He contacted us, and I worked with the district,
Okay.
and we figured out, it took us a little while because we didn't know where to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we picked the right
I've seen
place.
it, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
did install one. So does he know, do you know where that is?
Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
Okay, good, okay. Yeah.
Is that the only one?
You only had one before. I think it was out in front of the post office.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
so we replaced it.
And there was one, I think, at Borough Hall.
No.
Wasn't there one near Borough
We
Hall?
used
No.
to have quite
There's
a
only
few of
one.
them. We had one
Years
down in
ago,
1488, we had one in
Yeah.
front of the Food Town. There was one down by Peninsula Avenue, and then they had the ones in front of the post office, and there was 1 or 2 in North Beach.
Well, the
At
only
the
reason
time,
we
years ago.
we haven't taken out a lot right now, but the only reason we would take one out, previously from what you had, was we do density tests. And we collect the mail for a week or 2 week span and count the pieces that come out of the box and then make a determination. And usually if it's 25 pieces or less, it's not usually worthy to consider continuing. And then we make the decision to take the box out. But we've not done that in a very long time.
And you would provide signage for the business?
Oh, yes.
That would be right up front?
Yeah, just like what's on here.
The official Postal Eagle sign with the Seabright name, I believe zip code. And I don't know if anyone can see, on the black and white handout, there's a little kiosk that the village post office would have that would provide all the priority rate boxes. I believe there's like a grid. If it's box number 2 with 3 stamps, box number 3 is 4 stamps, whatever the case may be.
The advertising mail that comes out in great volumes, has to be delivered if it goes to a house. My memory is that if you didn't have to stop at that house that day, it didn't have to be delivered that day. Is this still a?
No.
No.
All right, this is my point. Now you have a man or a person, or a lady that goes to the house just because you got a piece of advertising mail that they paid practically nothing to mail. Yet that person is costing you a lot of money.
Yes.
You say you're gaining money because that thing is going to generate business and so forth. Has anybody equated the expense to the income that you get?
Yes. In fact, we're actually doing a study right now on modes of delivery. And you can say that the significantly most expensive mode of delivery is door delivery.
Walk in the door.
Door delivery. Having a person walk up to your house and put mail in your box.
What'd you call it?
Door delivery.
Oh, door.
Door
Okay.
delivery.
Porch delivery.
So we have door delivery, we have curbside delivery, and we have cluster delivery. So as you go down in order, which one is more efficient for us cost-wise? Cluster box delivery, correct? Because we're making one stop, and we may be delivering 50 addresses, okay? Curbside is then next. It's easier for us, believe it or not, to run a vehicle and stick our arm out the window and put mail into a curbside box. When you have to pay a carrier to walk, that becomes a higher cost to us. So we do take that all into consideration. However, having said that, we have a responsibility to our mailers and to our customers. Now, we have different customers. We have residential customers, but we also have business mailers. So we encourage our business mailers to what? Mail more. And then that winds up giving you more mail in your box, some that you want, some you may not want. So it's kind of like, it's a balancing act. We do take it into consideration, but the advertising mail that we currently have right now in our network is very, very important to what we do economically. Because when you look at single piece first class mail, so anybody here mail their bills still? Beautiful. Okay, we're in the minority. That's taking a stamp, putting it on the envelope, and sticking it in a mailbox. That volume has decreased in the last 10 years, almost 50%. Now, you say, wow, 50%. However, when you take into consideration that we get our most revenue from single piece first class mail, now you can understand what we're facing. So as this volume goes down, that's taking our revenue down. So how do we make it up? Packages, advertising mail. Now, is it a one-for-one? No. In fact, it takes 3 pieces of bulk business mail to make up for the loss of 1 piece of first class mail. Hence, we're very, very happy to encourage our business customers to mail and mail often.
So it's not junk
So it's
mail?
not, we don't consider it junk mail. Don't say junk
Revenue
mail.
mail. Right.
Now, the other thing is,
Revenue mail.
what volume of mail right now are we seeing an increase in? Package mail. Okay, so UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service, we're all seeing dramatic increases in package mail. However, as you could imagine, it costs a lot more, and I'm just using this as a thing, to process and handle and deliver this as opposed to a letter like this. So you can imagine, right? So as we drive this volume up, we also have to take into account what it does to us logistically to handle. And right now, this is what's growing. Package business is really growing, and we're actually in the thick of it. And we can compete, and we actually don't compete anymore with FedEx and UPS like we used to. We have collaborative relationships with them. We deliver some of their packages, they fly some of our mail. So it's a great relationship that we have. We kind of take advantage of what each other can do. They like the fact that we're the best last mile. Nobody beats us the last mile. That's the carrier walking up to your door and putting that package on the doorstep. They love that. Because there are some places where it's not cost efficient for them to deliver. But they know we're delivering, so they bring all those packages to our post office, and then we deliver them, but they pay us. So again, it's a wonderful relationship.
Do they pay you enough?
Yes,
Do they deliver business flyers?
they deliver overnight mail, like they have we have express mail, they have a similar.
No, I'm talking about.
No, I don't know that they
Junk-
have
back to
that.
junk mail.
No, they don't have.
They don't touch it.
No, they don't, yeah, they're more into overnight mail packages. We're the letter people, but the letters are going away. So now we're looking at advertisements. And now, as more and more people do this, more and more advertisements are going here as opposed to here. Okay, how many people here have a computer? How many people are on the internet? You get a lot of advertisements in your, yes, right? You probably get more on that than you do in the mailbox, I would say. I know I do. Okay, but I'm involved in a lot of I do a lot of things outside of the Postal Service. I teach a class at a university. I'm an umpire, so I'm affiliated with several professional organizations. I get tons of email advertisements based on all those affiliations. So again,
Change the settings on your
yes, you're
computer.
right.
Get rid of them.
But I can't because I'm the president of a couple of those groups, and then I can't. And I said, the guy said to me, "I sent you an email." Well, it spammed it, so I had to lower it. And I said, "Well, it got killed in translation." So yes.
There's one advantage to mailing bill payments the old-fashioned way, and maybe you ought to advertise that. There are some utility companies that if I put it in the mailbox at 5 o'clock, it's not only delivered the next day, but it's cleared my bank and it's cleared my utility company just in case I go online and see it. Whereas if I do it online with my bank, it takes at least 7 days for their vendor
I agree.
to deliver it to the utility company, but they've immediately taken it out of my bank, and that happens especially with real estate taxes. If you do online on the first day of the month, it takes almost 10 days for it to be posted with the town, but it was zapped out of my checking account instantly.
And also, if you do online and you have the bill, you pay a bill, the bank actually doesn't, if it's not able to do it electronically, they just put it in an envelope and mail it.
Yes, that also happens.
So
But if
you're-
they're
there's
using a
no-
vendor,
I like
they're
that.
hiding the money for a
Yeah,
No, the stamp.
They're using a stamp. Well, probably using a permit meter, but that's okay. That's postage. Yes, sir.
This is hypothetical, but if we were to find, I'm on the council here in Seabright.
Okay.
If we were to find a location where the lease would be very, very low cost compared to what you were paying, is that something that would give you consideration to?
They would take everything into consideration.
down.
I'll give you my card. You send me the information, I'll send it to the powers that would act on that and make a determination. They may not do something now, but we have a facility service group down in Greensboro. And they basically help us with our real estate decisions. So right now, we're in the process of putting some buildings for sale in several parts of the country. A lot of them are historic buildings. But they would also keep on file any of the information like that, should we want to do something down the road. So yes, I'll give you a card before we leave.
Along with that, do you go to the business owners to solicit for the village post office idea? Do you approach them, or how?
We've actually done saturated mailings, right, John, in a couple of towns?
For,
I mean,
Village
here.
Post
For
Office.
village.
oh, absolutely, yes.
Yes.
And here in Seabright?
Now,
So,
what we
like-
do is we introduce it first at this meeting and then work with that as far as, we want everyone to know at the same time and then expand on it. We don't want one person to know one day and then we start here and then we'll expand our efforts following this meeting.
But we have done mailings in
Yes, we have in
towns.
the past,
Yes.
yes.
So will someone from the postal service go to the individual business owners, or should we as town residents go to them? and
Word of
say-
mouth is excellent. In fact, it's the greatest form of advertisement. And then, if it merits, we will do a postcard and have it delivered. That is an option, and we've done it in some towns. Where we've had something like this.
Well,
going on.
and-
But
and
do
if
we walk door to door? No, we don't walk door to door.
No.
We're
But
so
if the carrier
But if they
delivers it,
call-
If we
yeah.
identified one of our businesses,
Right.
and there's
Right.
not a lot
Right.
that could accommodate this anyway, but out of the handful that could, and if we identified that, would you move ahead with that? But then what if suddenly Jack's got somebody who's got the storefront for you? What, if he's able to work that out, then what's happened? If you've already gone ahead with a village post office idea, would you then not consider a
Well,
full
I
post
would
office?
I would say that for obvious reasons, it would be financially more feasible for us to stay with the village. But I don't think they would make a move without taking everything into consideration.
Plus, if you had 4 or 5 village post office opportunities, we would look at every one of those before we made a decision.
You're gonna see that here, but.
There's a step-by-step process
Yes.
for the
Or
village.
five,
If
but-
you're implementing a village post office, consider all the bids,
We want
which is
to-
the most feasible, whatever the case may be.
Okay, looks like we have some people waiting.
Yes, emitters.
There's
What is
another,
it?
Meeting club.
there's another meeting in here
Okay.
that starts at 7.
Are they gonna be upset if we?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we got- She said that very quickly. I think we have 2 minutes, am I?
See this?
There you go. Yes, sir.
Could go next
Is it possible to put the post office in a public building?
Yes, we've actually done VPOs in a municipal building, in a library, and some other places. Yes, across the country, that is a possibility.
Does that face the ball and Seabright?
It's an option.
Still need a person to operate it.
Yes. In that concept, yes. In a post office concept, no. We've actually had relationships where we've leased space from a municipality, and they've built a new building, and they've given us, we were looking for a new location, so they offered us, made us an offer, and we took it. So down the road, as that gentleman wants to send information to facilities, that would be something that they may look at. At the end of the day, I don't know where the decision's gonna go. I don't make that decision. That's way above my pay grade. So- Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. You had that look like, I was trying to answer your question. Can I adjourn the meeting
Yes.
without offending anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll hang around, answer some questions. I'm gonna give you a business card, okay? Okay.
Thank you for your
And thank
time.
you
Has anyone
You're
not
welcome.
signed in?